The University of Nebraska-Omaha is made up of many unique people of all types and backgrounds. Here on Meet the Mavs, we take you up close and personal with some of the faces that make UNO great. From professors
The thing is, you try to teach these kids.
to athletes.
I'm here with Megan Woods, one of the stars of today's game. What's the approach tonight?
Just to focus on one game at a time.
And everyone in between, host Ben Helwig explores these individuals in depth, giving you a closer look into the people on campus. Now, it's time to meet the Mavs.
All right, I'm here with Dean Hilt, Dean Michael Hilt, the Dean of the College of Communications, Fine Art and Media. Make sure I don't mess that up. CFAM, better known as. Dean Hilt, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, so first question, maybe this is more for me, but also for everybody else. What kind of are the duties that you have of being the dean of this college?
Wow, that's a question. I could go on at length answering that question, so I'll try and summarize it. We are the geographically challenged college at UNO, meaning we have a footprint in 6 different buildings. Most people don't realize that. When they think of the College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media, they think of the School of Communication, they think of Mav Radio and KVNO Radio, but they're not housed together. School of Communications in the Arts and Sciences building, Mav Radio and KVNO, along with UNO Television, are housed in the CPACS building. Then you have the School of Music, which is in the Strauss Performing Arts Center. Then you have the School of the Arts, which includes theater, Writer's Workshop, Art and Art History. All of that's housed in the Weber Fine Arts building, including our Black Box Theater and our art gallery. We ran out of space. Even though we have so many buildings, we only have a small part of a couple, and then the other buildings were at capacity. So we have some of our items that we don't have room for storage are in the Welcome Center, the old Hayden House. And we also have the Sculpture and Ceramics Lab, which is in a small building on the access road here on the Dodge Street campus. So 6 buildings, and as dean, I'm responsible for all of that. So I have 3 school directors. Each of the directors oversees their faculty and the units within their schools. We have weekly meetings every 2 weeks and just discuss what's going on there. But the college is part of the big picture here at UNO, and my responsibility is to make sure that we're involved and that people recognize everything we have going for us, all the positives that we have in CFAM.
Yeah, so a lot to take in there, like you said, house without a home, I guess. So now a little bit more about you. You got your bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Kansas,
Yes.
and then you got your doctorate at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. How do those experiences, maybe at a little bit bigger schools, compare to what you've seen here at UNO?
Well, often I get asked questions, and one of the questions that I'm asked is, why am I such a big supporter of college radio and specifically student radio? And the answer to that is easy for me. When I was in college at the University of Kansas, I was on student radio. I participated for 3 of my 4 years there as an announcer, doing sports, doing news, worked up into the administration of the student radio station. To me, it's that simple. The experience that all of our students receive through Mav Radio, through UNO Television, play well for them when they leave the University of Nebraska-Omaha. So my experience at KU helped me land that first job. I worked in radio while I was a senior, actually, at a commercial AM radio station in Topeka, Kansas. And Lawrence is KU's in Lawrence, so it's about a 30-minute drive. Went from there to work in radio throughout the state of Kansas. Ended up back in Topeka and transitioned from radio into television. At all of the stops in broadcasting after my master's degree, and really even after my bachelor's degree, all of them were in news, so broadcast news, radio news, TV news. And ultimately, I had also been teaching as an adjunct along the way, first at Washburn University in Topeka, then at Rockhurst University in Kansas City, where I was working at a TV station there. At that time, I decided I could stay in broadcasting. I have some teaching experience. I wonder if there's a university in the area, I wanted to stay in the Midwest, that would take my experience and see that it would benefit them. And UNO had an opportunity. I applied, and here I am 30 plus years later.
You kind of beat me to my next question. I was going to say, you came to UNO as a professor in 1988,
Right.
but before that you mentioned a little bit, you worked in radio as well as in TV in Topeka and Kansas City. And when did you realize, kind of along that path, that you kind of wanted to get into teaching?
Well, it had always been in the back of my mind, and I have to say, when I received my bachelor's degree, I went into the workforce and working in radio. When I eventually made it back to Topeka, because I worked at a couple of other small town radio stations throughout Kansas. When I made it back to Topeka, again, I was only 30 minutes from Lawrence. This is pre-online and everything else you can do now. So you had to physically be on campus to get a master's degree. But it was a 30-minute drive, and I figured, well, why not? I'm here, and it's something I had always thought about. In the process of getting the master's degree, the thought occurred to me, well, what am I going to do with this down the road? It will help me in my profession, but at some point, maybe I'd like to teach. So I was working full-time at that point at a television station. I was going part-time as a graduate student, and I happened to meet a faculty member from Washburn who said, we need an adjunct to teach television production. Are you interested? I said, sure, why not? And one thing led to another. I loved the experience. I think I did it for 2 semesters in Washburn, ended up moving to a new job in Kansas City. After about 6 months or so there, I put out some feelers to the local universities in Kansas City, and Rockhurst had an opening. And it was at that point that I thought, this is something that I could do. I'm not sure that I'm ready to do it right now, but I could do this. And about another year passed, and I was looking to make a move, and actually applying at both other television stations, but also for teaching positions at universities, and this just happened to come along.
Well, we're glad it did, because now you've been here, as we mentioned, now 31 years. You're in your 3rd year, correct, as the Dean of CFAM?
Yes, I was interim for the first year, went through the hiring process last year, and was hired, and so last year was my first year without the interim tag on it, and now I'm starting the 2nd year. So yeah, 3 years total.
And so what was that transition like, moving from a professor at the university for so long, and then you mentioned all the duties you have as a dean. What was that transition like for you?
Well, I think it helped that I was involved in administration as a faculty member. For example, for roughly 10 years, I was the internship coordinator in the School of Communication. So that helped, and I had connections in the community anyway, especially the broadcast community, because of students who had come through our program and then moved on to work in radio and TV. After that, I was graduate program chair in the School of Communication for about 7 years. And then in 2007, the first dean of the College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media, Gail Baker, gave me a phone call and said, I'd like for you to come help in the dean's office. Let's meet. And so we had a meeting, and one thing led to another. And I moved into the dean's office in 2007 as assistant dean, and then after a few years became associate dean, and then with her departure, became dean of the college.
Now, a little less specific to you, but now working in CFAM and working with communications and journalism, stuff like that, how important is it for college students who come through this college, to you personally, to understand proper communication skills, especially when relating to journalism?
Well, one of the things that a tenure track faculty member must do to receive promotion, but also tenure at some point, obviously do well in the classroom in terms of teaching. You have to do service, which is serving on committees, and service can take many forms, so that's just one example. So you have to participate within the university structure. But the third area, and an important area, is research. And long ago, Jeremy Lipschultz, a colleague in the School of Communication, faculty member, he and I worked together on research agendas. One of them involved national survey of radio, television, general managers, and news directors, and it was a fill-in-the-blank survey, circle the number and that sort of thing, a mail survey back then. And one of the questions we asked is, what do you look for when you hire a new employee? And we didn't say tenure track, someone right out of college. We just said, blanket when you hire a new employee. And the overwhelming response, and by the way, we did the survey multiple years, so it was always the number one response, was oral and written communication skills. If you can do those things and do them well and prove to people that you have a track record of doing that with your previous jobs, along with your education, you can really find work in whatever industry you're in. We know that not everyone who comes through our college ends up working in the field with their major. We know that. But if you have those skills, you can do what you want in terms of a job. If it's not broadcasting, if it's not theater, for example, which again is part of my college, but you have those skills can transfer to whatever job you would like to have. So that's an area of emphasis. Specifically within the School of Communication, besides those skills, I would emphasize just knowing what's going on in the world around you. I think we emphasize journalism and communication, obviously, in our college, but it's important for all college students to be aware of their surroundings, to be aware of what's going on in the world and in their country, in their state, and to know that, at some level they can make a difference. But they have to begin with understanding what it is they're making a difference about, what they're talking about.
Yeah, and so since you have a background a little bit in journalism, and since we are a radio station here, where do you think journalism, and maybe specifically college student journalism, is heading now in 2019?
Well, let's be clear, and Ben, I know you know this, a lot has changed since I worked in broadcasting. We're talking, from roughly the late 70s to the late 80s. Some of the things, just equipment-wise, that all of you get to experience didn't exist when I was working in broadcasting. A lot of the other things, just at a cultural and societal level, I didn't have to deal with, both as a student, but then as a working journalist. So keeping those things in mind, I think the important part is to know that you have a role within our society as a journalist to be accurate, to be fair, to be able to explain whatever the topic might be in a clear and understandable way. Too often we get wrapped up in the jargon of the industry, whatever the industry is. If we're interviewing a scientist, a physicist, whomever you are interviewing, you get too wrapped up or let them get wrapped up in the words they use for the business. But you have to keep in mind that radio, broadcasting, you mentioned podcasts, television, the internet now, all sorts of ways to get that message across. But the people listening to you, or listening and watching you, have a right to understand what you're talking about. And sometimes we get too wrapped up in the language without making it rather easy for someone to really follow along the discussion, because the discussion is important. And I think that's where, for a number of years, we were all wrapped up with the equipment and what the equipment could do. But at the end of the day, it's still, I'll go back to those oral and written communication skills. It's the words you choose to use and how you choose to deliver them that will make the difference.
And so now looking forward, what are some things that you're excited about within your college down the line? It can be short-term, long-term, but what are you looking forward to within the College of CFAM?
Well, we have a wonderful opportunity. As you know, here in the last year, we completed the addition and renovation of the Strauss Performing Arts Center. So the School of Music has a wonderful facility. It was wonderful before. It's even better now. We've worked on the acoustics and the concert hall. We have a brand new recital hall along with that. So that's something that we've accomplished. We have other things we need to accomplish. I mentioned at the beginning, we're out of space in, for example, the Weber Fine Arts Building. Well, just like we did with Strauss, Weber needs an addition and a renovation. It won't do you any good to add on to the existing building if you don't renovate that existing building as well at the same time. It's just more efficient that way financially, and there are good reasons to do that. The School of Communication needs a building of its own so that we can bring together not just the School of Communication, the classrooms, all of the faculty and staff with the students, but also our radio television operation.
Yeah.
It should all be within one building. So if you're asking for goals, those are goals. I'm not going to say they're short term. I would like for them to be short term,
Yeah.
but I think the reality is they're probably more long term. But you have to begin the discussion and
Yeah.
see what happens.
Out of curiosity, is that maybe you talked about buildings? Are you looking at maybe something down on the other campus, on Pacific campus, or are you not trying to get into specifics with that?
Well, I would respond this way. I don't think that we can remove anything from the table in terms of a discussion. There are reasons to have the college all on the Dodge Street campus. Space is a problem. Land is a problem.
Yeah.
So it might be that we can't do that. But I don't think we've gotten to that point in our discussion where we could say, well, we definitely have to move to the Scott campus or even Center Street campus. We're not to that point yet.
All right. So, well, thank you for those answers. We're going to wrap up here with some rapid fire, some more fun, lighthearted questions, just to kind of get, I don't know, a light finish to the interview. But so rapid fire questions. We're going to go one after another, a couple here. Favorite building on campus? Weber, because of any particular reason?
It is a unique building.
Very.
If you look at it from the outside, by the way, it has won architectural awards from the outside appearance.
Really?
The inside, we've outgrown our space, as I've mentioned, but Weber is my favorite building.
I love the look of Weber, especially on the side when you're coming from the direction of CPAX. But favorite UNO sport to watch or listen to?
I am a hockey season ticket holder from day one.
Nice.
So it's hockey.
Hockey. Gotta love the hockey games. Music of choice when driving into campus?
Well, KVNO is part of the college.
I'm going to say you're going to go to KVNO?
So up till recently, I was the unofficial general manager. I've turned over those duties to Chris Allen.
Who we will have on as well, yep.
In the School of Communication. But still, I listen to KVNO. I've done it for years, so I won't break that habit.
So you're a classical music fan then?
I'm a classical music fan, but I would say I'm a fan of all music. So, for example, when I'm working out, I listen to Mav Radio.
There you go.
And when I'm driving to work, I listen to KVNO. Now, that might be because my vehicle is pretty old and doesn't have HD, but I do listen to Mav Radio. I listen to the sporting events. When I'm working out, I listen to Mav Radio.
There you go. We appreciate that. If Dean Hilt is driving down Dodge, either on the way home or the way to school, where are you stopping for fast food? Or are you not a fast food guy? You don't have to be a fast food guy.
No, I really try to change it up. So
okay.
I would say within the last 2 weeks, I've been to McDonald's, Burger King, and Qdoba.
Well, that was a good 3 right there. That's a variance.
So, but I try and change it up.
Okay, I'm the same way. I don't like the same thing. I got to change it up. But favorite class you've ever taught?
Oh, broadcast journalism.
Okay.
Broadcast journalism 1. For a number of years, Dr. Allen and I would team teach that, and that's the one that's involved with the newscast. It was a blast.
Oh yeah, I think I'm in that class right now, so I get it. Better UNO logo in your opinion, the pointy bull or the O?
See, now, I love the O.
Okay.
But this is more not just me personally, but UNO needed to have a recognizable brand that when people see it, they know what it is. The bull could mean other things, and if you don't know what the bull, it could even represent other universities. But when you see that O, and we've had it now for a number of years, and we're trying to reinforce that it must be everywhere, you want to make sure that people know who you're talking about, and we want them to know about UNO. Now, I've been around so long that I have like old T-shirts and sweatshirts with previous logos.
Oh, yeah.
That occasionally I'll trot back out, but currently it's the O.
A little throwback. Now, forgive my ignorance here, but the U and the N are in the logo. My dad told me that, right? I didn't realize that until 2 years into my college year. I was like, that's crazy. But that's why I like the O better. But last question. One word to describe CFAM and everything that kind of goes on within it. If you were to pick one word that describes everything you do with it, what is that?
Energetic.
Energetic.
We have so many things going on, and I think if you took a step back and just looked at all of the events in CFAM, if you just counted, if you just did math and counted all the events between theater and music, school communication, with Mav Radio, KVNO, we have so many more events really than all the other colleges combined at UNO. We have to be energetic. If I could add another word, I would add enthusiastic, because you have to be enthusiastic to do all those events. There's not really a week that goes by when there are at least 3 or 4 different things you could do on the UNO campus, and those 3 or 4 things would all involve the College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media.
Well, Dean Hill, you wrapped it up nicely there. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you down the line.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Meet the Mavs. Join us next time as we get to know someone new on this great campus. Until next time, go Mavs.